Next on my list is Thor Love and Thunder 2022. Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gore the God Butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct. I'm still going to defend this movie, even over a year later now. It's just... I feel like it had a lot of really good potential, and it didn't necessarily deliver in every aspect, and sure, the comedy was a bit much at times, the screaming goats stayed too long, all the same stuff I said last year. But, I really don't think it's as bad as people say. And I really like Gore. Next on my list is Blade 2 from 2002. Blade forms an uneasy alliance with the Vampire Council in order to combat the Reapers who are feeding on vampires. This was a really interesting film to have the idea that Blade's got to team up with the other vampires that he's been hunting to take on these really, really freaky Reapers that have the mouths open, really like a kind of thing. It's yeah, this is quite a good one. Wesley Snipes, he plays Blade really well. I can't really imagine anyone else doing it, so it's very good. Next up, The Old Way, 2023. An old gunslinger and his daughter must face the consequences of his past when the son of a man he murdered years ago arrives to take his revenge. I'm not really familiar with westerns. I haven't really seen any. I think my only experience with westerns was Rango. Oh, and The Lone Ranger, the one where Johnny Depp plays Tonto. But those were so long ago, I barely remember them. So maybe this doesn't hold up compared to other westerns, but for me, this was a really interesting movie. I really enjoyed it, and I think maybe it's just because westerns are new to me. But I don't know, I thought it was really good. I thought Nick Cage gave a really good performance here in a realm that he's not really used to. So it was quite nice to see him cross over into a new genre. Next on my list, Brightburn, 2019. What if a child from another world crash-landed on Earth, but instead of becoming a hero to mankind, like Superman, he proved to be something far more sinister? The Gunn family's take on Dark Superman, basically, and it's a really interesting one. I mean, the idea of, what if Superman was evil? This movie tackles that question and says, it's bad. It's going to be bad. Next on my list, Surviving Christmas 2004. A lonely, obnoxious young millionaire pays a family to spend Christmas with him. Again, the critics. I don't know, man. Why are the critics so mad at these movies? These Christmas movies. I think this is an alright movie. I quite enjoyed it this year. I don't know. Ben Affleck's got that kind of lovable, slightly annoying quality to him in the movie. It's alright. It's good. Next on my list, Halloween Kills 2021. Surviving victims of Michael Myers form a vigilante mob and vow to end his reign of terror. This movie kind of does Halloween 2 stuff, but also throws in some new stuff. I quite like how it kind of turns out that the people of Haddonfield are the real monsters when they start killing people who they think are Michael Myers but aren't actually Michael Myers. And the scene at the end where the entire mob beats up Michael Myers and then he gets back up and slaughters everybody, that's just such a good sequence. And the kind of way it ends, the cliffhanger, is really good as well. I really feel like this is the best of the Halloween movies I watched this year. This is the last of the Halloween movies I watched this year, don't worry. I watched 11 out of 13. I didn't watch Halloween Ends this year, but I do slightly prefer that one, I think, based on my first viewing. And I still haven't watched the second Rob Zombie Halloween, but once I watch both of those, we'll be getting the full Halloween ranking. Next one, Dream Scenario 2023. A hapless family man finds his life turned upside down when millions of strangers suddenly start seeing him in their dreams. When his nighttime appearances take a nightmarish turn, Paul is forced to navigate his newfound stardom. I think this was a really interesting premise. I mean, besides it just being a metaphor for cancel culture being absolutely stupid, Nick Cage delivers a really, I think, Oscar-worthy performance as just the most basic, boring man ever, who just starts appearing in people's dreams. And everything about this movie is just I feel it's really well made. Until the last 15 minutes, it felt like they didn't know where they wanted to go, and they kind of cut to the bit with the advert, and then they just kind of cooked up a reason for him to appear in his wife's dream. I feel like it could have been done differently, but I think up until the last 15, I was really sold on this being a really, masterpiece. But, I mean, barring the just 15 minutes, the rest of the movie was really, really good. So, it was really interesting to watch how a man can rise to stardom just out of, stupid fame like so many people do now, and just getting famous for stupid reasons. And then how easily they can fall when people start spreading misinformation. And then he even did the whole thing where he does a YouTube apology, which, as we all know, doesn't go well. That's, it's really interesting, and it's really well acted on Cage's part. Transformers Rise of the Beasts 2023. During the 90s, a new faction of Transformers, the Maximals, joined the Autobots as allies in their battle for Earth. It kind of took the 80s Unicron storyline and the 90s Maximals and oofed them together, and I think it turned out alright. I think they just need to stop making Transformers movies with humans in them, because the humans are just not as good anymore. I mean, since we lost Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox, I mean, we're not really watching for the human characters anymore. I mean, Kate Yeager was alright, like Mark Wahlberg, but I feel like the next one, they need to just do it on Cybertron and just have the robots, because the robots are really cool. The CGI is still amazing, and like the storylines they have are alright, but there is a couple of political undertones in this one though. That Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings 2021. Shang-Chi, the master of weaponry-based kung fu, is forced to confront his past after being drawn into the Ten Rings organization. Genuinely, I think since Endgame, the best new Marvel movie that's focused on like one new hero, Shang-Chi, definitely. It's a really good story. It's quite moving at times. The visuals are brilliant. I love martial art kung fu movies, how well choreographed they are. This is easily one of the best of Phase 4 as well, and one of the best we've had since Endgame that hasn't been a team-up movie. Really, it is a really good film. City of Angels, 1998. An angel on Earth, a doctor unable to believe, a patient with a secret, a love story made in heaven. I've been where they filmed this, in Los Angeles, and it's quite interesting to have a movie with my favourite actor, Nicolas Cage, and a song by one of my favourite bands, the Goo Goo Dolls. They wrote a song called Iris. It's probably the most famous song. And it was written for this movie. And now that I can actually see the movie now, and I can listen to the song, it really puts two and two together. I think this movie, like, it started off, it was a bit, I don't know. Cage's character seems more creepy than infatuated in this so far. But then it takes a nice romantic turn, and then the ending. Whoa, that hit like a truck. Wow. I did not see the ending coming, and it really hits you. It really does. And next, The Family Man. I rated slightly higher than City of Angels. A fast-lane investment broker offered the opportunity to see how the other half lives. Wakes up to find that his sports car and girlfriend have become a minivan and wife. Yes, this 2000 movie is it's quite an interesting one. He's alone on Christmas, rich but unhappy. And then he ends up in a dream that feels real, where he's with the girlfriend he could have been with, and they're married and they have kids, and he kind of becomes accustomed to family life, and he's like, oh yeah, this isn't too bad. So then he takes a shot in real life when he wakes back up. It's a really nice, kind of one of those rom-com movies. It's definitely worth a watch. It's a good Nick Cage film. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, 1992. 1 year after Kevin McAllister was left home alone and had to defeat a pair of bumbling burglars, he accidentally finds himself stranded in New York City, and the same criminals are not far behind. It's Home Alone, but in a different setting. It's still good. Got some new traps. It's kind of like Saw for kids, but it's not quite Home Alone, is it? Home Alone, 1990. With their daughter, okay, bear with me a second. The description of Home Alone is suddenly the description of Christmas with the Cranks. 1 second. Home Alone, 1990. An 8-year-old troublemaker mistakenly left home alone must defend his home against a pair of burglars on Christmas Eve. It's a classic. I'm mostly in it for the traps. The slapstick comedy in this movie is hilarious. No matter how many times you watch it, this is probably one of the most iconic slapstick comedy movies of all time, and it's really well played out by by Harry and Marv. They're just so funny. Megan, 2022. A robotics engineer at a toy company builds a lifelike doll that begins taking on a life of its own. Horror movie. Not overly scary. Interesting story. Win. Lord of War, 2005. An arms dealer confronts the morality of his work as he is being chased by an Interpol agent. This is it's very reflective of the real world and the amount of money that gun people can make during times of war, selling to both sides. It's really interesting, and Cage acts the role really well. I found the opening sequence very very cool. It basically you view it from the perspective of a bullet being transported from one place to another and loaded into a gun and then flying through a person. It was just such an interesting, like, it was just good to watch. But yeah, this is a really good movie, and Cage plays the role of Yuri very very well. Next on my list, Spiral from the Book of Saw, 2021. I watched all 10 Saw movies. This one came last. A criminal mastermind unleashes a twisted form of justice in Spiral, the terrifying new chapter from the Book of Saw. It's because there wasn't any Tobin Bell. Is it really Saw if you don't have the Jigsaw Killer? Other than that, solid performances from the usually comedic Chris Rock, giving a very good dramatic performance. Samuel L. Jackson guest stars. Very good film. Very good film. The traps are a bit unwinnable, which kind of knocks the enjoyment of it. Part of a Saw movie is you're supposed to be able to get out of the traps usually, unless it's an Amanda or a Hoffman. But this one, they're just all rigged, and that's kind of, yeah. He's not Jigsaw. And next up on the list, Fortress, 1992. In a future private underground prison/fortress, the inmates are computer controlled with CCTV, dream readers, and devices that can cause pain or death. John and his illegally pregnant wife are inside, but want to escape before birth. They have a one-child policy. Luckily, China doesn't have prisons like this. This prison is insane. I think this is the kind of movie that if it had starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, it would have been massive. It would have been a big hit. It starred Christopher Lambert, probably best known as The Highlander and other B movies. So it didn't do as well as it probably could have. But it's a good film. Next one we've got is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, 1989. The Griswold family's plans for a big family Christmas predictably turn into a big disaster. I think when you've seen it enough times, the gags are a little bit less funny, but who knows, maybe I'll enjoy it a bit more again next year. But this is quite a fun film, and Chevy Chase is a funny guy. And, yeah. Next on my list is Blue Beetle, 2023. An alien scarab chooses Jaime Reyes to be its symbiotic host, bestowing the recent college graduate with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as Blue Beetle. I think with this one, I went to watch it because it had the guy who plays Miguel Diaz in Cobra Kai, and I love Cobra Kai. And he does really well. And I think in most parts, this is a really good movie. There's a couple of times where I think it crossed the boundary into too silly. But like there were some really hard-hitting moments. Really good origin story. I think this one used its kind of Latin American culture quite well in this movie. Because a lot of movies like they have a culture and they could just kind of use it very stereotypically, or they don't use it well. But some movies like this one, and I think like Shang-Chi as well, is a good another superhero movie example, really kind of engross themselves in the culture they're set in, and I think it's quite nice to see kind of a different side of the world to what we're kind of used to seeing in England, as well as just like it's really a good story. Quite like how like family orientated they seem to be over there as well. It's a good movie. It's probably the best DC movie of the year. It was very good. Next, Saw 5, 2008. Following Jigsaw's grisly demise, Mark Hoffman is commended as a hero, but Agent Strom is suspicious and delves into Hoffman's past. Meanwhile, another group of people are put through a series of gruesome tests. I found with this one the traps weren't quite as memorable. I wasn't quite as invested in the story. I can't remember if it was this one or the fourth one that dug into Jigsaw's past, but whichever one it was, that was really interesting. Kind of why he became the Jigsaw Killer. Hoffman is an awful person. He's a good character, but he's an awful person. He rigs absolutely all of his traps, and but the plot twist at the end, though, where Hoffman gets in the glass box trap and just smugly looks at Strum. Man, that was a good one. Didn't see that coming. And Strum met his own grisly demise. Good film. I love the Saw films, but this was probably the lower one for me. Next we got Fred Claus, 2007. Fred Claus, Santa's bitter older brother, is forced to move to the North Pole to help Santa and the elves prepare for Christmas in exchange for cash. Yeah, I just... Fred Claus. It's good. I like it. Next on my list, we're going back to Saw. Jigsaw, 2017. Bodies are turning up around the city, each having met a uniquely gruesome demise. As the investigation proceeds, evidence points to one suspect, John Kramer, the man known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for over 10 years. I think this one really cleverly balances the dual storylines between Kramer 10 years ago and the present, and it really does a good job of overlapping them with the victims and the way they died to make you think that it's happening at the same time and that the Kramer stuff isn't 10 years ago. But the twist at the end with the laser collar was really nice. And this one had some good traps. You know, the laser collar was a good trap. I quite enjoyed the one where with the large cylinder, the cone, and on the bike and everything. You know, I mean, it wasn't as good as most of the other Saw movies, but I think this one is slightly overhated. Next on my list, Thanksgiving 2023. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. I did not see this coming. I was not ready for this movie, and I wasn't ready for who it was going to be as the killer. It's kind of like Scream at Thanksgiving, but it's not really a parody movie like Scream is. But it's got that kind of comedy slasher aspect. I never thought I'd see a human woman roasted like a turkey, but there you go. Next on my list was Wind Talkers, 2002. 2 US Marines in World War II are assigned to protect Navajo Marines who use their native language as an unbreakable radio cipher. I found this really interesting. I'm pretty sure it's loosely based on stuff that did happen during the wars, where I mean, some of this war stuff against the Japanese was really brutal in America, and I think a lot of movies don't really talk about it enough. But this was really interesting that it had like a Native American tribe, and they had their code as a way to talk to each other. And the idea that if the enemy captures one of your Native Americans, you've got to kill them so they don't leak the code. It was a really good war movie. Nicolas Cage, solid performance. Next up, The Equalizer 2, 2018. Robert McCall serves unflinching justice for the exploited and oppressed, but how far will he go when that is someone he loves? The Equalizer movies are really quite good, actually. I slightly preferred the other two, but this one's still good. Denzel Washington's just really badass in these movies. Next up we've got Top Gun Maverick 2022. Now, I watched this one last year, but I forgot to put it on my list, so I made a point of watching it this year. After 30 years, Maverick is still pushing the envelope as a top naval aviator, but must confront ghosts of his past when he leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. This was a really good film. Restores my faith in Tom Cruise a bit after The Mummy. The Equalizer 2014. A man who believes he has put his mysterious past behind him cannot stand idly by when he meets a young girl under the control of an ultra-violent Russian gangsters. Yeah, it's just... I love the way that Robert McCoy can go from being like the nicest old man to being just a really ruthless murderer for justice. I really kind of like what Denzel brings to the character. Denzel's a very good actor. The Equalizer 3, 2023. Robert McCall finds himself at home in southern Italy, but he discovers his friends are under the control of local crime bosses. As events turn deadly, McCall knows what he has to do: become his friend's protector by taking on the mafia. I like this one slightly more than the first one. I really like the setting of this one in southern Italy, and I think everything else was kind of on par with the first one, but I preferred the setting of this one, so there you go. Frequency 2000. An accidental cross-time radio link connects father and son across 30 years. The son tries to save his father's life, but then must fix the consequences. This is a really clever movie that doesn't overthink time travel. For inexplicable reasons, Northern Lights, I don't know, this kid this guy, he's a fully grown, can talk to his father who died 30 years ago, and by doing this, he then tells his father what's going to happen and how to survive. But then, because of this, it leads to other people surviving who should have died, including a serial killer who ends up killing I think, the younger one's mom, the father's wife. So they then have to work together across time to solve this mystery and figure out who the killer is and how to stop him. It's really clever, actually, and it's really quite a nice film as well. Next up on the list, Commando 1985. A retired Special Forces colonel tries to save his daughter who was abducted by his former subordinate. Commando is one of those 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies where he just goes in and kills a bunch of people, and we love it for that. Next, Chappie 2015. In the near future, crime is patrolled by a mechanized police force. When one police droid, Chappie, is stolen and given new programming, he becomes the first robot with the ability to think and feel for himself. This is really an interesting movie. So it's a police bot who gets given a conscience, an AI conscience, who then falls into the hands of two South African gangsters, played by the South American band Die Antwoord. And they really bring their own unique sense of charisma to this one. And they kind of, in the end, they kind of start turning Chappie into this gangster bot, and it's really fun. But it's a really nice, heartwarming movie at the end as well. It's really lovely. Just kind of the bond Chappie builds with these two characters who are kind of like his parents in a way. It's a really nice film. Think RoboCop meets Short Circuit. Next up, The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993. Jack Skellington, king of Halloween Town, discovers Christmas Town, but his attempts to bring Christmas to his home causes confusion. This is a classic, honestly. The amount of effort and real passion and love went into this project from Tim Burton and all of the crew over there, making a stop motion like this back in the 90s. Just wow. And this one really holds up well because it's stop motion. You don't have to worry about it aging or anything. And the songs are just really good. It's such a good movie, and it's quite short as well, so it's it doesn't drag too long or anything. It's fun. It's one of those ones I'll watch every Christmas. Not at Halloween though, weirdly. Next on my list, Scream 6, 2023. In the next installment, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. Yep, New York, new rules. And while this isn't the best Scream movie, it's just as good as a lot of the others. Scream is one of those franchises that consistently delivers. Strays, 2023. An abandoned dog teams up with other strays to get revenge on his former owner. This movie was hilarious, honestly. So Will Ferrell, who's usually quite, he quite often plays like the innocent comedic character. He deals with his abusive owner for so long, and it keeps getting abandoned. And eventually, he gets really abandoned, and he meets Jamie Foxx's Bug, who's a really loud-mouthed dog. And then Will Ferrell's dog resolves to bite his owner's he resolves to biting his owner's junk off. I want to keep it relatively PG here. And it's just it's such a hilarious movie. It's funny constantly throughout. It's so uncanny that it's just like a bunch of dogs just so rude, and it's just like it's rude comedy, but it's so funny. Honestly, I laugh so much at this movie. Next on my list is Saw 4, 2007. Despite Jigsaw's death, and in order to save the lives of two of his colleagues, Lieutenant Rigg is forced to take part in a new game, which promises to test him to the limit. I think this one has some good traps as well. It had quite an interesting follow with this one, following Rigg through his test, which was ultimately to not save the guy from the second movie. He tried to save the guy from the second movie, whoop. And I think the twist on this one, I did not see it coming at all. I actually had to kind of look into an explanation of it, time stuff. But I love Saw. Next up, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness 2022. Doctor Strange teams up with a mysterious teenage girl from his dreams who can travel across multiverses to battle multiple threats, including other universe versions of himself, which threaten to wipe out millions across the multiverse. They seek help from Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, Wong, and others. This is, I think in most parts, this is a really solid movie. I talked about it last year, so I won't go too much into it this year, but it was a really solid movie, bit of fan service, just a few plot points that didn't quite land, but overall, good movie. Next film, Saw 3D, 2010. As a deadly battle rages over Jigsaw's brutal legacy, a group of Jigsaw survivors gathers to seek the support of self-help guru and fellow survivor Bobby Dagan, a man whose own dark secrets unleash a new wave of terror. Man, the ending of this one's actually kind of sad, but you know, I like a lot of the traps in this movie. I like the angle of the fake survivor, and we finally got to see the reverse bear trap do its thing. Next up I got Renfield, 2023. Renfield, Dracula's henchman and inmate at the lunatic asylum for decades, longs for a life away from the Count, his various demands, and all of the bloodshed that comes with them. This is just a really fun, bloody comedy with Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage both playing their roles really well. It's so much fun. Definitely give it a watch unless you're really squeamish to blood. There's a lot of blood. Next one up, Avengers Age of Ultron 2015. When Tony Stark and Bruce Banner try to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program called Ultron, things go horribly wrong, and it's up to Earth's mightiest heroes to stop the villainous Ultron from enacting his terrible plan. Yeah, it's not as good as the other Avengers movies, but it's good. Saw 3, 2006. Jigsaw abducts a doctor in order to keep himself alive while he watches his new apprentice put an unlucky citizen named Jeff through a brutal test. Some of the traps in this movie are really good. Like the rack trap is very well thought out. I don't like it as much as the other two in the original trilogy, but it is still really good. And the ending is like, whoa, everything happening all at once. Very, very cool ending. But shocking ending. You wouldn't expect it considering how many Saw movies there are. Next is the absolute classic movie, Die Hard, 1988. A New York City police officer tries to save his estranged wife and several others taken hostage by terrorists during a Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles. I don't need to say much. Die Hard. It's Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, man. Next on my list is A Christmas Carol 2009, an animated retelling of Charles Dickens' classical novel about a Victorian-era miser taking on a journey of self-redemption, courtesy of several mysterious Christmas apparitions. Jim Carrey is amazing in this, as all the ghosts and Ebenezer Scrooge himself. Jim Carrey he really performs the role well. He shows you that he isn't just a physical comedic actor. He can act really well. Next on my list is Violent Night, 2022. When a group of mercenaries attack the estate of a wealthy family, Santa Claus must step in to save the day and Christmas. You ever been asked the question, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? This movie basically says, here's Die Hard if it was definitely a Christmas movie. Undoubtedly. and it's really fun. And David Harbour as Santa is just great casting. It's a great film. Next on my list is Saw 6, 2009. Agent Strahm is dead and FBI agent Erickson draws nearer to Hoffman. Meanwhile, a pair of insurance executives find themselves in another game set by Jigsaw. I found the angle with the insurance guy really interesting on this one, and some of the traps like the shotgun carousel, very top notch. Good going. Next on my list, the superior multiversal Spider movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, 2021. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter asks Doctor Strange for help. When the spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. This was a fun film. It was mostly fan service, but I love seeing all the old villains come back, Doc Ock and Green Goblin especially. The other Spider-Men coming back. It's such a nice film. It's such a good. It's a lot of fan service, but it's really enjoyable. Next is one I like to revisit most years. Remember the Titans, 2000. The true story of a newly appointed African-American coach and his high school team on their first season as a racially integrated unit. This movie really does show how people can come together despite differences and societal beliefs. Like, they're trying to make loads of movies nowadays trying to promote like equality and whatever, but look back to 2000's Remember the Titans. That's how you do it. Great film. Next on my list, Rogue One, 2016. In a time of conflict, a group of unlikely heroes band together on a mission to steal the plans to the Death Star, the Empire's ultimate weapon of destruction. I think what works about this Star Wars movie is it doesn't feel too much like a Star Wars movie. There's minimal lightsabers or anything. It's kind of just a space war movie, and I really like that it's more grounded in the kind of war movie kind of thing. And everything on Scarif is really nice. It's such a beautiful location. Honestly, I feel like this might be my favorite Star Wars movie. It's really well made, really well written. Next, Thor Ragnarok, 2017. Imprisoned on the planet Sakaar, Thor must race against time to return to Asgard and stop Ragnarok, the destruction of his world at the hands of the powerful and ruthless villain Hela. This was an amazing film. Like, when it first came out, it was like, oh wow, Thor can actually be a good movie, because the first two weren't great. And Taika Waititi really kind of got the perfect balance of the action and the comedy on that one. And it's really well written script. Like everyone brings a lot to it. The Hulk, Valkyrie, Thor. What's his name? Who plays the Grandmaster? He's Jeff Goldblum. That was it. Yeah, and they all kind of bring it together for a really good movie. Yes, it's definitely one of the better ones. Next, Saw 2, 2005. A detective and his team must rescue 8 people trapped in a factory by the twisted serial killer known as Jigsaw. At this point, all the twists will still get you. You don't see them coming. And wow, I mean, Saw 2 was like, it was pretty close to Saw 1, to be honest. But I think just like, I gave Saw 1 a bit more of an edge on this one, just for being kind of better for its time, low budget, high success. The initial twist amazing. Saw 2 is really good as well. Got some good traps and everything. Got some good stories. The twist was good. Everything you want in a Saw movie. Predator, 1987. A team of commandos on a mission in Central American jungle find themselves hunted by an extraterrestrial warrior. Come on, do it! Kill me now! Come on! Get to the chopper! I love Arnold in this one. He's so fun. If you ever seen that famous meme template of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers doing that really manly handshake, that's from Predator. Predator is like one of the ultimate man movies, so good. Con Air, 1997. Newly paroled ex-con and former US Ranger Cameron Poe finds himself trapped in a prisoner transport plane where the passenger sees control. Die Hard on a plane, but everybody's a criminal. Fun times. Demolition Man, 1993. A police officer is brought out of suspended animation in prison to pursue an old ultra-violent nemesis who is loose in a non-violent future society. This one predicted no physical contact during COVID. It predicted the movement from meat to non-meat meals. It predicted Schwarzenegger in government power. I really hope they're wrong about the 3 seashells. Elf, 2003. Raised as an oversized elf, Buddy travels from the North Pole to New York City to meet his biological father, Walter Hobbs, who doesn't know he exists and is in desperate need of some Christmas spirit. Elf is an absolute classic, and I can't imagine anyone other than Will Ferrell doing it. There was talks initially that it was going to be Jim Carrey, and I think he would have brought a very different feel to it, because his characters tend to have a bit of an edge, and he'd probably do a lot more physical comedy. But Will Ferrell's got this real innocence about his character, and it's just, you don't see that, and it's really hard to replicate. You don't see that in the real world. It's just, how can you not love Buddy the Elf? Scrooged, 1988. A selfish, cynical television executive is haunted by 3 spirits bearing lessons on Christmas Eve. This is such a clever adaptation of A Christmas Carol, led by the brilliant and eccentric Bill Murray. This is one you gotta watch every year, and if you haven't watched it, you've gotta watch it. It's such a good film. The Running Man, 1987. In a dystopian America, a falsely convicted policeman gets his shot at freedom when he must forcibly participate in a TV game show where convicts, runners, must battle killers for their freedom. You ever heard of The Hunger Games? Want to know where it got its ideas from? The Running Man, written by Stephen King. And it's just like, this is such a good film, Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. I'll take this over The Hunger Games any day. Dodgeball, a true underdog story, 2004. A group of misfits enter a Las Vegas dodgeball tournament in order to save their cherished local gym from the onslaught of a corporate health fitness chain. This movie is just so fun. I watch it like every year, and every time I kind of understand more and more of the jokes, and it becomes funnier. The lovable gang of Average Joe's gym, the insanely over the top villain of White Goodman. It's one of the comedy films of all time. It's up there. Make sure you watch the post-credit scene as well. The first time I saw it, I died of laughter. A Christmas Carol, 1984. A bitter old miser who rationalizes his uncaring nature learns real compassion when 3 spirits visit him on Christmas Eve. This is probably, I think, one of the best, neat version of A Christmas Carol. Like, no fancy gimmicks, not like Scrooge or Muppets. Like, out of all the neat versions, I'd say this is the best one. And George C. Scott really brilliantly plays the role. And for 84, good effects too. Love Christmas Carol. Willy's Wonderland, 2021. Remember FNAF when I said I saw a better animatronic killer movie? This is it. A quiet drifter is tricked into a janitorial job at the now condemned Willy's Wonderland. The mundane tasks suddenly become an all-out fight for survival against wave after wave of demonic animatronics. Fists fly, kicks land, titans clash, and only one side will make it out alive. Basically, Five Nights at Freddy's, but you fight back instead of just sitting there and taking it. Like, Nick Cage just batters all of these different animatronics. It's so fun. This is one of the rare ones I've watched multiple times this year out of my list. And just like, I watched it back in January. I watched it again a bit after the Five Nights movie came out. And honestly, this was better. I mean, it was just the constant action and everything. It was fun. It never held back. And, you know, yeah, Willy's Wonderland is great. Next up on the list, Edge of Tomorrow, 2014. A soldier fighting aliens gets to relive the same day over and over again, the day restarting every time he dies. This is basically a mix of Groundhog Day and Alien and a war movie, and I think it's Tom Cruise's best work. The Muppets Christmas Carol, 1992. The Muppets present their own touching rendition of Charles Dickens' classic tale. Honestly, I think this is my favourite version. I think the best version is probably George C. Scott's 1984 version, but my favourite is The Muppets. And it's just timeless, you know? Michael Caine acts it straight, despite the fact that standing opposite him is Kermit the Frog. And the songs are really nice and everything. Just the whole kind of like aesthetic of the Muppet version is really nice, and it's a bit more kid friendly in places as well. So it's a good one to watch with family. It's a classic. I watch it every year on Christmas Eve. The Rock, 1996. A mild-mannered chemist and an ex-con must lead the counter-strike when a rogue group of military men led by a renegade general threaten a nerve gas attack from Alcatraz against San Francisco. I forgot how good this was. It's like Die Hard on Alcatraz, but the villains have a really good motive, and it's Nick Cage and Sean Connery. It's so good, honestly. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, 2022/2023, because you Americans got it 2 months before we did. When Puss in Boots discovers that his passion for adventure has taken its toll and he has burned through 8 of his 9 lives, he launches an epic journey to restore them by finding the mythical Last Wish. This movie was way better than I'd expected, because the first movie was the most meh thing, and then the sequel that no one asked for. We didn't ask for it, we didn't want it, but oh, we needed it. It was so good, honestly. Maybe just a tad predictable in some places, but really good animation. I would say this trumps the Spider-Verse animation, honestly. This was such a good movie. I was so blown away by this, like, compared to like most animated family movies aren't this good. Saw, 2004. 2 strangers awaken in a room with no recollection of how they got there, and soon discover their pawns in a deadly game perpetrated by a notorious serial killer. Spoiler alerts. Oh, the twist though! That the Jigsaw Killer was the body on the floor the whole time. That was shocking! And I mean, yeah, it was not that gory, it was low budget, the traps were still innovative where they could be. But oh, the twist! Never saw it coming. That was like Shyamalan level. That was like Sixth Sense kind of stuff. But wow, what a way to start that franchise. Wow, great film. Captain America: Civil War, 2016. Political involvement in the Avengers' affairs causes a rift between Captain America and Iron Man. Or 2 superheroes beat up an orphan with a heart condition. And the superheroes are war criminals. Yep, Captain America defends Bucky, and they end up creating a whole team to go against Iron Man, who wants to fall in line with the government and do the right thing. Whereas Captain America, obviously, being Captain America, he wants freedom rather than being government controlled. And things don't turn out well for Team Iron Man in the long run, since most of them are dead or crippled. But you know, it's a really good film. Really good, kind of the way they had the 2 sides fight each other. Just amazing. Baron Zemo, really good, just manipulating both sides. I'm still Team Iron Man all the way, though, honestly. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017. The Guardians struggle to keep together as a team while dealing with their personal family issues. Notably, Star-Lord's encounter with his father, the ambitious celestial being Ego, played by Kurt Russell. This is a very good movie. Interestingly, Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell sharing the screen again, just like Tango and Cash. But yeah, Guardians 2. Oh man, Guardians 1 was good, but Guardians 2, yeah, I like Guardians 2 better. Honestly, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are brilliant. The Whale, 2022. A reclusive, morbidly obese English teacher attempts to reconnect with his estranged teenage daughter. I was blown away by this thing. I had to rewatch the ending a few times to make sure I fully understood it, but wow, Brendan Fraser came back like full force for this one. Absolutely deserved the Oscar. Brilliant movie. Like, just the acting, the story, it's just, yeah, it's one of those ones that doesn't have a nice storyline. It's a bit depressing, but oh man, it's such a good movie. Like, if you're into like proper acting, even stage acting as well, because it's clear this was adapted from a stage play, watch this movie, it's really good. Pig, 2021. A truffle hunter who lives alone in the Oregon wilderness must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped. I talked about this last year. I might do a full review of Pig at some point. It's such a good drama. Nicolas Cage really should have got an Oscar for it. It's criminal how they just neglected him in his performance in this movie. It's such an emotional, impactful performance, and I love the way how he. I love the scene where he kind of dissects this other chef's kind of entire lifestyle and the way that he's gone into fancy food. I love the way that instead of a montage of collecting weapons, he collects his ingredients and cooks a meal for a guy in the final act. And he just, his character is so poignant. It's just, this is such a brilliant movie. Daddy's Home 2, 2017. Having finally gotten used to each other's existence, Brad and Dusty must now deal with their intrusive fathers during the holidays. This is the perfect Christmas comedy for me. I love it so much. I mean, Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, John Lithgow, Mel Gibson. Have I sold you yet? Oh, and John Cena. Just narrowly missing out on the top 10. Saw X, 2023. A sick and desperate John travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. I love how Saw X paints John Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer, as the protagonist. And you don't feel bad for a lot of the people who get killed in these traps, who are complicit in this scam, and you really hate the villain of the movie. And the twists were really good in this one. And I really loved how John was a sympathetic character, and you could really kind of support Jigsaw, and you kind of wanted to see his trap succeed in a way. And it brought back Amanda as well. I think Saw 10 is the best of the bunch, and I cannot wait for Saw 11 next year. You know that's going on my movie list. We've hit the top 10 with a movie that I haven't seen for a few years now, and I forgot how much I love it. Real Steel, 2011. In the near future, robot boxing is a top sport. A struggling ex-boxer feels he's found a champion in a discarded robot. Hugh Jackman in this really heartwarming father-son team with this really scrappy robot rising up the ranks to fight the champion. It's like Rocky, but Robot Wars. It's more like the Robot Combat League. It's a really obscure TV show, if any of you remember that one. Chris Jericho hosted it. It's such a good movie, honestly. I've heard them now possibly working on a second movie or a TV show or something, and I'm so hyped for that, because this is such a good movie, and I think after 12 years it's finally starting to get some attention now it dropped on Netflix. So yeah, I'm really hoping to see a kind of a resurgence of Real Steel, because it's such a good franchise. You could do so much off of it. Number 9, Here Comes the Boom, 2012. A high school biology teacher looks to become a successful mixed martial arts fighter in an effort to raise money to prevent extracurricular activities from being axed at his cash-strapped school. This is Kevin James' peak right here. Honestly, like, I love this movie. Kevin James, Henry Winkler, oh man, it's such a great cast. It's such a great story, so feel good. Like, this is one, it's funny. This is one I will come back to every single year, because it's one of our classics. Love it so much. Number 8, Jingle All the Way, 1996. A father vows to get his son a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. However, every store is sold out, and he must travel all over town and compete with everybody else in order to find one. I finally got to watch this at the cinema this year, on the big screen, and I was smiling the whole way through. It is brilliant. I love this movie. It's so quotable. I love the whole dynamic between Schwarzenegger and Sinbad, and just all the character. Yes, obviously the main character is Howard, but it doesn't work without Myron and without Ted. It all just sets up perfectly into just this brilliant Arnold Schwarzenegger comedy that really has a cult following, and like just everything, like from put that cookie down now to Jamie, I gotta get the Turbo Man doll. Just everything is just I love this movie. This is my favorite Christmas movie. It's so much fun, honestly. And yeah, at the end it becomes a bit insane, because he just becomes Turbo Man, starts jetpacking around with some dodgy CGI, and Myron as Dementor shoots his hand off of his arm somehow. It's just, yeah, you suspend the disbelief, because it's just such a good movie. Honestly, I love Jingle All the Way. Number 7, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, 2023. I was so hyped for this. A Brooklyn plumber named Mario travels through the Mushroom Kingdom with a princess named Peach and an anthropomorphic mushroom named Toad to find Mario's brother Luigi and to save the world from a ruthless fire-breathing Koopa named Bowser. Whoa, this movie just, bam, blew me away. As a lifelong Mario fan, this movie meant so much, because it's like we're finally getting a real good Mario movie. There's all these little nods to the fans, all the Easter eggs. The Peaches, the Bowser song was hilarious. The cast was amazing. We had Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key. Just really underrated performance from Kevin Michael Richardson as K-Mech as well. We had Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Oh, just everything worked. Charles Martinet in his last performance as Mario, like that's obviously he wasn't as Mario in this one, but it was his last thing he did for Nintendo. He played Mario's dad. It was such a nice feel good movie. Yes, the story was a bit bland. Yes, it was the marriage storyline again. They've done this twice already. It was better than Odyssey though. But I'm really hoping that, like with Sonic, the first movie is going to be like mess story, and the second movie is going to be really good. Like I'm hoping the next one's like RPG level, but wishful thinking. But oh man, Super Mario Bros. Movie was amazing to watch, and visually it's brilliant as well. Number 6, It Could Happen to You, 1994. A police officer promised to share his lottery ticket with a waitress in lieu of a tip. This is the kind of movie that can really restore your faith in humanity. The two main characters, Charlie and Yvonne, are such nice people, and it's such a lovely, heartwarming rom-com. It's just, I love this movie. It was so nice to watch. It's a brilliant movie. I don't want to give too much away about this one because I want you to go watch it. But oh, it's so good. Number 5. Face Off, 1997. To foil a terrorist plot, an FBI agent assumed the identity of the criminal who murdered his son through facial transplant surgery. Don't question it. But the crook wakes up prematurely and vows revenge. This movie is an absolute trip. John Travolta and Nicolas Cage just they switch faces, and it's just insane. See, look. Nicolas Cage, John Travolta. It's one of those movies that's like you can suspend the disbelief about the fact that these guys just switched faces and that people in their lives didn't notice that they have different bodies or whatever, but like it's just an absolute classic. I mean, everything from the Hallelujah scene to like the bit where they're both standing opposite each other and looking in the mirror. It's like looking in the mirror, only not. And then like just the whole dynamic between the two trying to play each other. It's such a good film. I can't wait for if they do a second one. Number 4, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, 2022. Movie star Nick Cage is channeling his iconic characters as he's caught between a superfan and a CIA agent. Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal go on a buddy comedy, meta, drama, action, thriller, everything, every single genre you can think of. Except horror. And it's such a brilliant film. It's brilliantly constructed with Cage playing himself to like a perfect parody level. It's one of the few times, and I've never actually done this, but I think it's the only time I can think of where I've wanted to stand up at the end of the film in the cinema and applaud. I didn't, but I wanted to, and that's rare. And it's just like I think after COVID, this was like the first movie after COVID that when I watched in cinema, I was like, oh, this was amazing. I love this film so much. I've seen it quite a few times now. Just everything about it. It is Nick Cage in his most Nick Cageiest, to the point where Nick Cage smooches Nick Cage, and it's just, man, it's such a good film. Top 3 now. Number 3, Avengers Infinity War 2018. The Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. Infinity War is one of the best movies of all time. It's so well written, so well acted, all the team dynamics work. You would worry about having too many superheroes in it, but all the little teams that they get broken into along the way and all the new interactions. And Thanos is an amazing villain. Everything about this movie, how did this not win best movie at the Oscars or something? The Oscars, they're pretentious and they like their artsy movies. Infinity War is the best movie of 2018 if you ask me. Brilliant stuff. Really like peak Marvel. Number 2, Now, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a better movie, but I do enjoy it more. Avengers Endgame 2019. After the devastating events of Avengers Infinity War 2018, the universe is in ruins. With the help of remaining allies, the Avengers assemble once more in order to reverse Thanos' actions and restore balance to the universe. Both movies were amazing. Both delivered brilliant ending, cliffhanger kind of thing, like massive like shock moments. Both had great team up moments, epic moments. I slightly prefer Endgame because as the way it ties the whole MCU together in one of its movies, even going as far as to make Thor: Dark World relevant again. The way that all of there's so much closure for a lot of the characters, but the selling point for this one for me is the final battle scene where Thanos and his entire army arrive, and it's just Steve Rogers with his broken shield standing there, and then the portals start opening, and oh man, it's the most goosebumps feeling when everyone just starts coming through, and you got like the most epic battle of all time. Oh man, this when I saw this in the cinema, I was like, I am experiencing the height of cinema right now. It will never be this good, and it hasn't been. Nothing since has been as good as that final battle scene. Wow. And then the ending and I Am Iron Man. Oh man, everything just came together so perfectly. And if you can, as long as you don't think too much about the time travel stuff and the fact that Steve Rogers returning the stones at the end was kind of there's a few plot holes there. But if you overlook that, the other 2 hours and 45 minutes of the film, brilliant. I think Infinity War is slightly better written. I think as soon as you bring time travel in, you're going to be dealing with a lot of issues. But I prefer Endgame. It's just everything, what Endgame means to the MCU and to all of the characters in it, all of the storylines. I think Endgame is the perfect conclusion to the MCU, and they really should have stopped there, to be honest. They have Spider-Man Far From Home as like the epilogue, and then that's it. Just start over. Stop doing what you're doing now. That said, if we didn't keep going into Phase 5, we wouldn't have number 1. Number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 2023. Still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe and one of their own, a mission that can mean the end of the Guardians if not successful. This movie, I've watched it 3 times this year. It is the perfect ending for the Guardians of the Galaxy. It rounds off the trilogy perfectly, with an emotional story centered on Rocket Raccoon, one of the best characters in the group. A brilliant villain of the High Evolutionary, played so well by Chukwudi Iwuji. Just the fact that we have a villain that has no redeemable qualities that we can just hate. I love how menacing he is and how powerful he is, and he's not like the other villains in Marvel. Honestly, he's better than Kang the Conqueror at this point. All the Rocket's backstory and everything. That even at first I didn't think the music in this one was as good, but the more you watch it, the music fits really well with the movie, and even just on the No Sleep Till Brooklyn scene with the corridor fight is just so well made, well choreographed. This movie was just such a perfect emotional ending for the Guardians, and wow, I mean, this movie is I don't always feel emotion when I watch movies, but this one really pushed it with the ending. But it's such a lovely ending. It's a great film. It was my favorite of the year. I'm not saying it's better than Infinity War and Endgame. I'm not saying that it's better than anything else I've seen. But this year, it was the one I enjoyed the most, and that's what this ranking is. It's about enjoyability. Otherwise, if it was about which movie was the best, Infinity War would be top, Oppenheimer would be a lot higher, Willy's Wonderland would be very low. But this year we're going for my favourites, and my favourite was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'd highly recommend it. You don't need to know anything about the wider MCU, you just need to watch the Guardians movies. And all you need to know between 2 and 3 is that Gamora died, and that is it. And Guardians of the Galaxy is the perfect trilogy. I can't think of any other trilogy that is as good, as consistent, as the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Brilliant stuff. Just amazing. And that wraps this up. This didn't take quite so long today. It only took like 2 hours 40 instead of 3 hours. I tried to be a little quicker for you this year. I mean, it was 9 less than last year, but still. So yeah, that rounds up my 2023 film rankings. Coming to you a bit late into January 24, because I didn't watch my last movie until New Year's Eve. I watched Die Hard, and obviously having to work now, I've got a lot of time constraints, really. But I will be making a list for next year. I haven't watched any movies at the time of recording, which is the 5th of January. However, I think the first movie on my list is actually going to be Guardians of the Galaxy 3 again, because my dad got it for Christmas, so we might watch it again. So I'll be making the list next year. We've got other new exciting releases, like Saw 11 is going to be making the list. I'm pretty sure Deadpool 3 is next year. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming. So join me again at the end of next year, start of 2025, and we will see how the 2024 cinema year goes for me and how many films I can watch. Thanks for watching. If you really did stick around for the entirety of this, well done, I salute you. Thank you so much for your viewing and for getting my average view duration up, because I think most people come in, they watch 10 minutes, if that, they watch 3 minutes, and then they leave. But, you know, if you've watched all of this, thank you. Let me know what your favourite movies were out of all these movies I said, what your favourite movie of the year was for you. Just talk to me. Talk to me about movies. Come on. I'm always going to answer. Talk to me. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 1,000. I was going to say before May 30th or 31st or whatever that my channel anniversary is on, but let's face it, I don't think I'm hitting that. I don't think I'm hitting that 1,000 goal. But I want to get to 1,000 by the end of this calendar year. So help a fella out, okay? Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time.